What is going on, guys? My name is Seeds, and welcome to Feeds Mindset, episode number 20, with the number one one-eyed sniper, Cinema. How are you, man? Welcome in.
I'm doing good. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I really appreciate your time being here. It definitely means a lot to be able to share your story and get to know more about you and stuff. Not only on a personal level, but to anybody that's obviously watching. So, kind of explain, who you are. I mean, how would you say who is Cinema as of current day?
I definitely would just describe myself as a small-time streamer, content creator who's just really trying to push out content for not only myself, but for people who are just wanting to watch YouTube, watch streams, kind of, watch their favorite games. I specialize in Call of Duty, mainly snipe, so I definitely reach more towards the sniping community.
Yeah, definitely. Are you looking forward to the new COD that's coming out?
I'd like to say yes, but I'd like to say no at the same time. I mean, it happens every year, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we get super excited, and then there's a lot of downfall once the game comes out. So I got no high hopes. I got no low hopes. It's just like it's
Yeah.
coming out soon. It's a new game to play. That's all I got.
What about our side is a little bit different. I do always kind of set this tone in the very beginning. I mean, obviously, me and you are decent friends, but I'm not going to say obviously that we're best friends. But different from a lot of guests, because a lot of guests I've had on recently, I have no idea who they are. I mean, you do have a little bit, but one big thing that we have in common is our competitive sniping. In the competitive community sniping tournaments, playing against each other. You've beat me a couple times. I've beat you a couple times. So are you excited to see if that transition into the new COD, is that something you'd be intrigued about?
100%. I think these MW3 tournaments can definitely push bigger than these Modern Warfare 2 tournaments because like no one likes Modern Warfare 2. I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of tournaments that didn't happen this year that definitely could have, but no one likes the game as much, so there weren't as many engagements tournament wise. So I think MW3 is a new fresh start to, competitive sniping, get it back in more tournaments. As long as the game's good, I think it'll get back up there.
Yeah, and I've kind of said this thing on some other podcasts too. I talk about how I like for myself, I am a caster and do get into casting, and I did have that opportunity to really go full fledged on the tournaments when the new COD come out and stuff, and I chose to be the player, which I don't regret at all. It was super fun. Because I mean, you know me. I mean, that's definitely the one thing that I can vouch, even though we don't know each other that much. I was the most different one out of everybody. I would connect. I would pop into every single fucking Discord. I'd be like, yo, like,
Yeah.
hope you guys have a good day. Like, I would take that extra step just because that's who I was.
Right.
So I don't regret being the player. I loved it. I loved the feedback, and even the time that I had a quad feed in a tournament that was so cool. But I don't regret it, but I would like to see how it would have turned out if I would have just decided to be the caster. And I think that's kind of a slightly unique position that I'm in, and something that I personally am looking forward to. I really do hope that this COD is good, because if people are interested in that, people like myself and many other creators that know how to host fucking tournaments, can host them and bring that enlightenment. I think that's kind of something small I wanted to bring up before we really get into it, because that is something we have in common. I mean, yeah, like I would say there was anywhere between 10 to 20 community tournaments since MW2 has dropped, which was good. Let me figure out how to word this. I'm more excited because the women had a lot more tournaments than they usually do.
That is true.
A lot of them never really get noticed and stuff, so it's been really cool to see the women community kind of blow up like that.
There's a lot more co-ed tournaments, I feel like, in Modern Warfare 2 than like I've ever seen.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that was
and that was
cool.
cool. It was a cool way to be able to connect with other people and to kind of see a lot of people kind of jump out of their shell and stuff. I mean, even one of the girls that I had personally brought on that I had like really hounded is a girl named Blue Star. She was just somebody that I just met through local friend or whatever, and I needed a girl for one of the tournaments, and I was like, hey, I was like, play, and she was like, no, it's not for me. I was like, come on. I was like, I swear. I was like, anybody barks at you, I'll bark back, I promise. And she played. We ended up losing, but she did great, and then that opened up her opportunities, and she played in like 3 or 4 more tournaments without me. So it's sick stuff like that. But the downside of it, though, I mean, yeah, there was a lot of tournaments, and shout out to the women community being able to be heard and get out there. But there was a lot of tournaments that wasn't really hosted that well. So how do you feel about that?
I mean, it's all right. It happens. Like I said, I feel like the tournament hype for MW2, like it was just eh. Like even I wasn't excited to play in tournaments. I think I played in maybe like 3 sniping ones and a few ranked ones.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it's just like it was so boring. I feel like Search and Destroy tourneys for MW2 was really just like play angles and sit there and kind of
Yeah.
wait. You know, whoever over chows ends up losing. That's kind of how you win that Search and Destroy. So it was just really boring for me personally, not overall, but
Mhm.
I'd like to say that casting could have been better if there were more maybe like hard point tourneys,
Mhm.
things like that. Because there's more action to commentate over. But those Search and Destroy tourneys just kind of boring.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree, and I think it's kind of something that most people could agree on. I mean, you definitely have people out there that don't like respawn modes. Come on, camera fix itself.
Right.
Thank you. But you definitely have people that only like search and destroy. But you could easily see the energy environment change when there was hard point or a respawn. I mean, even at one time, I think we had a fucking headquarters objective one for a tournament. Like that was crazy. But you could definitely see the positive influence that had. And yeah, it brought on a lot more trash talking and stuff, but that was some of the funnest stuff to watch. I mean,
Yeah.
some of the coolest content that I've seen just off of this COD alone. And I feel like that was kind of, I never really got into Cold War. I didn't like Cold War that much at all, but Cold War was a big spike in those
100%.
tournaments. I never really competed them. I don't really know what kind of light or insight you have on that, but it didn't really seem like a lot of respawn was hosted on that game. Is that Do you feel the
Yes.
same
Yeah.
way?
Yes and no. During MW2, Pride had recently just hosted that Cold War tourney, and it was Hardpoint. I
Mhm.
believe it was just Hardpoint, and oh my god, it was so much fun. Like I think everyone were there, Spice Boys, Avengers, and even a few newer people that I know in the community were there,
Mhm.
just showing up and doing their thing. But it's like it was all respawn, and the energy was insane. We had 3 casters, and it was just like amazing. It's everyone had so much fun. Sadly, it didn't get to fully end, just because the tournament exceeded that time. And it still hasn't continued. I don't think it will, but just going back to Cold War and having it respawn after all those search and destroy tourneys, like everyone was so excited to play it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I myself had only participated in one, and it was a tournament where everybody was just lagging, and I got told just do a trick shot or something, have some fun, and I paid like a buy, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just exit the room, I guess.
Hmm.
But yeah, I didn't have too good of a Cold War experience, but I know offset of my experience, I know a lot of people loved it. Even one of my really good buddies, Reese. Reese, he's competed in a lot of Cold War tournaments. He had got a big name there, and he had absolutely loved them. So it was really cool to see a lot of people being able to get out of their comfort zone and kind of make their mark and a name for themselves. So
Hmm.
it was definitely cool. So I'm excited to kind of bring all that to light, get an idea of who you are and kind of our current backgrounds as streamers and creators and where we came from. But now I want to kind of finally go back. I want to go back. I usually start out with how you got into gaming, but I do want to get into your beloved story of being a one-eyed sniper and something that
Hmm.
you're very passionate about and stuff. And I do kind of want to bring that up for anybody that's new or maybe in your community that just don't know as much. I mean, kind of give us a story and background behind that and how you've used that as a positive.
Yeah. So I was born with a rare eye disease called PHPV, where basically your retinas are just detached from your eye. When I was born, I did have an eye. It just was basically dying. So when I was around 3 years old, they eventually took it out. And ever since, I've had a glass eye. And growing up, I I started gaming. I think my first game was Star Wars Battlefront. I remember just running around aimlessly, not knowing what I'm doing. But then my stepdad had gotten Modern Warfare 2, and he was playing it in the living room, and I was like, "What is this? I need to play it." And I hopped on, and I fell in love instantly. And I played all the way from MW2 to I think Black Ops 3, and I completely stopped gaming
Mhm.
because I fell in love with skateboarding. I took skateboarding on, and having one eye is you'd like to say it's easy when you're growing up with it, right? But
Mhm.
like I have no depth perception, right? I feel like it's so much harder to see things around me. So skating, it was all about feel, right? Like
Mhm.
going down these big rails and ramps, it's like it's all about feeling because I can't really see how far it is. It's hard to kind of
Yeah.
gauge. So I spent a lot of time just skating and just practicing all that. And it was like one of my biggest passions. I did it all the way throughout high school. And I did play Call of Duty here and there, right? Because,
Mm-hmm.
when it's rainy or snowy, I'm inside and I don't have anything else to do. But
Bruh.
I never really had passion to go anywhere with it. I was kind of just playing it to have fun.
Yeah.
And I did get into Fortnite and I started playing competitive in Fortnite and
Mm-hmm.
I won a few bucks off of it and it really just kind of sparked the competitive side in me.
Yeah.
And I saw Cold War and I was like, let's get back into Call of Duty. So Cold War, got back into it and I just started sniping just for fun. And it was more so of just like I think I was watching Scope and Depthy the most at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
just watching them like play Cold War and doing what they were doing, just like I was like, I can't do this. Like being a one-eyed sniper, I felt like I didn't have the capability of doing what they were doing. And it's so weird to say that because like the way I describe it is it doesn't really affect when you're looking at your screen, right? When you're looking at
Yeah.
your screen, it doesn't take over your whole perspective, right? It's
Right.
kind of dialed in the middle. But for me, it's like I have trouble with seeing how far it is. Sometimes my screen's up here, sometimes my screen's down here, and it's like I
Mm-hmm.
can't gauge whether it's close or not. So that really affects my gameplay. If my monitor is tilted to the side, it pisses me off because I can't tell if it's straight or not. So
Mm-hmm.
I was always just frustrated playing because I couldn't really gauge. I'd always be just distracted by other things. But once again, I went back into Cold War, was watching Scope Depthy, and I watched the tournament that the Spice Boys made, that huge
Mm-hmm.
tournament that I hosted, and I was like, oh my god, I need to get into competitive. And they weren't big name tourneys, but I just kind of got a group of friends. Eventually, they ended up actually being my teammates, which I'll get into it in a second. But
Mm-hmm.
we just got a group of friends, and we started entering in these random tournaments, and we lost a lot, and we won a few. And I got the motivation to start a team
Mm-hmm.
and I named that team Love United. And it started out as like just a friend group. My main goal was really just to have a team for small creators, small streamers to have a platform to grow on.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved every second of it. I met a lot of great people who are still like my close friends, but we entered all these tourneys and it was just like it didn't feel right because they weren't like these big name tourneys. They were just like
Mm-hmm.
small little challenge,
Bruh.
like right, like it's just like a few people who wanted to just like do a 4v4, right? Like they weren't like actual tourneys.
Bruh.
So, I think it was I can't even remember. It was another Pride tournament where we entered and we got disqualified first round. We got first rounded,
Mm.
absolutely done. And I was like, wow, like we're terrible. And that like demotivated me so hard. I was like, I don't want to do this. I can't do this. Like it's just so hard. And I ended up continuing on with my team. We weren't really competitive anymore. We were just kind of sniping for fun. We were still on Cold War. And it got to the point where I was running the team on my own. I
Mm-hmm.
did have two co-leaders, but sadly they weren't doing much. I did
Bruh.
have a lot of people who were there to help me, but it just wasn't enough with being like having a job,
Bruh.
going to school. It's like I just didn't have all the effort to do so. And I was also trying to be a streamer at the time, and it was just so hard to do everything at once. Also, I'm on console during all of this. I just got a PC like I'm not kidding, like 2 months ago. So
Wow.
I'm doing all this on console, trying my best to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Um, but with the co-leading issues and just running the team on my own, I couldn't do it anymore. So I eventually ended the team and decided to just like stop. Like I stopped everything. And then I kind of woke up one morning and I was just like, this doesn't feel right. Like the passion that I had to play competitively, just snipe for fun, like it just like I needed that in my life. Like I needed to go down that path. And so what I did for that little break is obviously I needed to give myself a mental break.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked as much as I could to try and get this PC. And eventually I just started doing my own thing. I started making YouTube videos every 2 weeks. What I would do is I'd stream on Twitch on console, and then I would screen record the entire stream on my phone and edit it in CapCut for about 3 hours every night. And then I'd post the video, and it was the worst quality ever, but it was a great video. And I was getting a lot of good feedback. Everyone was saying, like, dude, you're actually like a really good sniper. Like, you need to like start doing this more. Like, you need to get a PC. And oh my God, like everyone was telling me once I got on a PC, it was over.
Mm-hmm.
And that just motivated me even more. Seeing people like push me to get a PC and push me to post more content motivated me so much more than anything else. So eventually I got a PC, and that's when it kind of just took off for me. I started streaming every other day. I never had a set stream schedule because, you know, moving from console to PC, I had a face cam. I was able to look at two screens at once. I was monetizing my chat from my
Yeah. I mean,
phone.
you was just overwhelmed and you was just ready to go, not really thinking about the logistics. You just wanted to be live. I get it.
Exactly. So like I had nothing set up, anything. I was just kind of streaming here and there. And then my great friend Demo was helping me out a lot. He was like, "Look, like do this." He convinced me to switch over to Kick, so I was streaming on Twitch, but now I'm on
Mm-hmm.
Kick. And it's just like having friends like Demo, my friend Listed, and so many other people, like just helped me like kind of figure out, like, sit down, set a schedule for yourself. Don't try and do it all at once, because that's exactly what I was trying to do. I was trying to upload, I was
Mm-hmm.
trying to stream, I was trying to game, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So eventually I slowed myself down, and I set a schedule for myself, 5:30 all the way to 9:30 every day. And the everyday part was gonna be my biggest battle because I've never
Mm-hmm.
streamed that much.
Yeah.
Like before, I would stream 2 3 days a week. So streaming every day was definitely something that I needed to like get used to, rather
Mm-hmm.
than like now it's like a part of my schedule.
Yeah.
Like if I don't stream in my day, it feels weird. My day doesn't feel complete. But before, like that was the main goal for every day. Is like, oh, I can't do this. I have to stream. I can't do this. I have to stream. Like I
Yeah.
was
Yeah, I
literally
mean you're
no
you're
life.
just you're just setting your priorities because I mean it's something that you're passionate about. So I mean I get it. It's not nothing to really look down upon or feel bad about it. I mean you just had to figure your priorities, and I mean you did. You got your PC. I mean you started streaming 5 days a week, and now you have all these other things opening up. And I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about it. That's the biggest thing about PC gaming is just the whole editing aspect behind it. I
Mhm.
mean and I completely understand. I mean I'd use CapCut mainly for my TikToks, but I actually used an app called CuteCut for years when I first got into, especially like when I was really into COD Ghost, which was my first ever COD. That was where a lot of my content came from. Dumb SpongeBob songs in CapCut, and I would have to download a file 3 different times to get it in there. I'd
Yeah.
spend hours and hours and hours, and not even care about the views. I'd just be satisfied that I stuck with it and did it, because now it's kind of relatively easy to create content in a way. Back then, being limited to what kind of resources you have and what's available free to you, it is difficult. So I'm definitely proud of you for that. You was able to kind of get out of that comfort zone. You understood where your priorities lie, and I think that's the biggest thing about it is to not never feel like, oh, I have to do this before I stream, or oh, I have to stream before I do this. It's whatever you're passionate about. It's like, yeah, like I can I can fold this laundry, but I can waste 30 minutes of sleep to fold this laundry, to
Right.
sacrifice time for streaming. It's just little things like that, and it's your passion into gaming, because at the end of the day, like, tomorrow's never guaranteed. Tomorrow could be your best day. Tomorrow could be your worst day.
Mhm.
I think that's definitely the most important factor, that you stay passionate about it.
Yeah. I think another thing is too, like going into streaming, like especially as a sniper, like everyone is doing the same thing. It's
Mm.
so hard to be unique and to be different in the sniping community. And like getting a PC and getting all that, like it definitely made an impact on my streaming and my content, because people were like, "Oh, this is the console kid. Like he finally got a PC. He's on PC. Let's go." But like that's it. It kind of just like stayed pretty dry, and I never really talked about my eye online as much, mainly because
Mhm.
I don't care that much. It's like Yeah, it's something worth mentioning, but for me, I don't want to use it as like a sort of like clickbait thing.
100%.
Like
I
I
like
don't
I
want to
think
be.
yeah, I definitely get it. I think that it is important for people to get to know you because it kind of creates a newfound respect. Not really in the sense because you're not obviously I can tell you're not longing for like oh like I'm sorry like oh like you deal with all
Right.
this kind of stuff like you're not longing for that. But the flip side to maybe help you on any time that you mention that in the future, even with this podcast, is that you're kind of creating a found of respect because I mean if a viewer taps into cinema and you're sharing a really touching story about something that's really affected your life, I mean, that's you sharing something to them, which builds a really good bond. So I think that it's important. None of what you said is wrong at all. You can feel
Mhm.
however you want to feel, but I would say, like me personally, if I was just trying to get to know cinema better, that would make me feel more comfortable because it's not the fact that you're trying to tell me that you struggle and be grateful for what you have. It's the fact of this is what I went through and just please don't judge me for it. And I think that that's the
Right.
most open hearted you can be with that. So I think that that's beautiful. I think that's awesome.
Right. So I like I said, I never really told anyone because it didn't really matter much to me, but I definitely wanted to be able to stand out because I knew that I had the talent. I knew that I
Hmm.
had the passion for it. And I was like, I think I think I'm okay with like announcing it. And like I said, like I didn't think it was gonna make a huge difference, right? Like I'm just a normal sniper. I'm just a
Hmm.
normal person like anyone else, except I do have my eye disability, and
Right.
so I publicly posted on Twitter, and it is pinned on my profile, so that when
Mm.
you do view it
Yep.
for the first time, that's the first thing you see. I do show a photo of me when I was young with an eye patch, and then a photo a few years back where my glass eye is actually out, so
Hmm.
you can like see what it is. But that's my first time like publicly telling people. Obviously, I told friends and you know a few other people online, but like publicly, I didn't think it mattered. But a lot of people are kind of like, "Wow, like you have one eye and you're doing this," or like, "Dude, I have two eyes and I can't even do that." It's like it definitely makes me stand out in a way where I can like that is me. Like I'm not faking it. I'm not hiding anything. It's like that's who I am, and a lot of people are like excited to see that like me being myself.
Yeah.
I do have a few people on Twitter who do follow me who have the same um, kind of thing going on with their eye, where
Right.
they're a one-eyed gamer, and I've had them reach out to me and be like, "You've helped me out, like go public about my eye, and you've definitely helped me just be motivated to be me." And like seeing that made me feel so much better about like telling people, because
Yeah. No.
like I said, this
100%.
is me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely get it, and I know you want to kind of finish up your story and stuff, but I can't help but to chime in because, like, man, like I'm proud of you. I mean, like, I know we don't really know each other that well, but I mean, that's we was just talking about this before. I'm not going to get into the whole story again, but you never know the type of impact that you make as a creator, and you have been you may not see it as being gifted having to deal with that, but that's how I view it is, you've been gifted of going through a struggle and a hardship of something like that. And you use it not only as a positive, but you also don't really use it in a cocky way. Like, yeah, in tournaments, like you may get like a little barky and stuff. That's different. Like that's in the heat of the moment. But
Right.
in the grand scheme of it all, like you're just a normal guy just trying to, get there like everybody else. And I think that's a beautiful thing because regardless whether there are people that support you that have, issues like that or not, there's thousands of people that have issues they don't talk about. There's people that's
Right.
longing for the chance to talk about it, for the chance to connect with somebody. And just like you said, you've had people that are close to you that said that they've not admitted that to nobody, and they did it because they felt like you were a safe space because you had their
Mhm.
same issue. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it is you're normalizing it because all of that is still kind of a part of mental health because people have
Right.
struggles with that. They're scared. They have social anxiety. What are they going to think? Are they going to judge me? Are they going to call me stupid? Are they going to make dumb comments and say, even with one eye, I could have seen him or whatever? Like, you got to be prepared for that
Right.
kind of stuff. And I fully understand it. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it is because you stepped out of your comfort zone. You set the tone for anybody new that comes. They automatically know who you are, and you practice what you preach, and you're about it. And I think that's the cool thing about it because I feel like there's a part of you that's holding on to people support me because I can do what they can do with one eye. And I feel like you're looking at it a little bit the wrong way, because the way that I view it personally is that you have a bunch of excuses that you could give to why you are not anywhere better than you want to be in life or in your content creation or whatever, and you make
Mhm.
no excuses. I mean, you edit on CapCut, you do all that stuff, you go and take all these crazy extra steps, you compete in these sniping tournaments with people that have experience and skilled at the wazoo and stuff, and you don't complain a bit about it. You don't make any little clause saying like, oh, like if I had, you know, two eyes, maybe we could have won. Like, you know, it's hurtful things like that you never want to say. And I think that's the cool thing about it, because you're not holding yourself back. You're not feeling upset about it. You're proud of who you are, and you're
Mhm.
open to talk about it. And at the end of it all, you're not cocky about it. You don't ego it in any way, and you don't use it as any type of excuse. So I think that's kind of the perspective I want to put you in from now on, anytime that something like that happens,
Mhm.
because it's not the fact that people are just, you know, wowed that you can do it with one eye. It's the fact that you follow through when so many people give up and they have nothing to lose, and
Mhm.
you, in a hypothetical term, you have a lot to lose, and you make no excuses and you get it done. And I think that's why people stick with you. I think that's why you have a lot of friends, because there's people out there, including myself, that don't have anything like that hold me back. And you
Mhm.
know, I sit here and I think, man, like if somebody like Cinema can succeed and get out there with the struggles, like what am I doing? You know, like what kind of creator
Mhm.
am I? If he's got all this stuff going on with him, why can't I be like him? So I think it's cool because you're kind of being like a role model to other people, and I want you to see that. I know that you've probably not, you know, and none of us have. None of us has gotten to where we want to be.
Mhm.
But I think that is an important factor, and it just goes right back on that topic that we was talking about before. Is there you make a lot bigger of an impact than you know that you do, and there will come a time where it all hits you like a train wreck, and you'll start getting really emotional, thinking about how you got here, and I can't believe that I did it. Like those days will come, but as long as you stay strong and stay true to who you are, I mean now like getting to know you on a more personal level and stuff, like I couldn't, a train couldn't stop me from supporting you. You know, like now I'm invested in a cinema, and I want to see you grow and I want to see you prosper, because not
Thank you.
because you deal with the difficulties of what you have, it's because you don't use it as an excuse at all, and you just keep going.
I don't see it as any form of excuse. Like, like it's how I was born. It's an issue that I have to live with. And growing up, like, especially like skating with all my friends, like, I'd always be the odd one out just because like they're
Hmm.
like, "Oh, like hit this ramp." I'm like, I'm scared. Like that's another thing. Like it was scary to commit
Hmm.
to things like that, especially like physical things. Like
Yeah, yeah.
'cause if I fell and if I hurt my eye or if I hurt my other eye, I'd be, fully blind. Something could happen. So I was always just scared to commit to those things like that. And growing up with those friends, I definitely would get joked about a lot and things like that. And growing up, like you just get, I guess you could say, bullied by
Hmm.
a lot of people just because it's like, oh, it's a cyclops, it's a guy with one eye. Like it's not. I never saw it as like a hurtful thing. I never once took it to heart because I was like, it's who I am. Like, say all you want, but like, whatever, dude. Like, I really
Yeah,
just never took it to heart. And so, going into this like sniping community, I never sought to use it as an excuse because it isn't an excuse to me. It's who I am. It's how I was born. You know, if these other people can do it, so can I. Like there's no difference there. So I think that's my main reason why I've always kind of hit it is because it isn't in like I said or like you said it isn't and oh my god is
I got
not
you. I get you. I get
it's not an excuse, and I never wanted to promote it as one,
you.
but I also
100%.
never wanted to like flex, saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, I have one eye. I'm better than you because of that." It's
Yeah,
like,
definitely. I mean, the way that I see it, like I said, I would never see you promoting that. I think for lack of a better word would be raising awareness, because
right.
hypothetically, I know this probably isn't like a good example, but even like with my podcast, like I told you the type of person that I am as a creator, what my goals are for the future, the impacts that I want to make on this world as a creator. And I can snipe and I can play Valorant and I can hit cool clips and stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm just trying to get people to see me. So
Mhm.
just like you love being a sniper, you love skating, you have your hobbies, you have your passions and stuff. But at the end of the day, you're still wanting to raise awareness for that simple,
Right.
like, if I can do it, so can you, no matter what I go through. And it's hypothetically the same thing, just like my podcast. Like, yeah, like I want to get where I'm going, but that's not going to get me there. But what better way to get where you want to be than just a full force on what your actual goals are? And so that's the same thing on my podcast. I stopped everything that I was doing with my streaming, figuring out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to set these guests up, and I'm nowhere as where I want to be. I have a lot of stuff to get figured out, but on the flip side, I'm 20 episodes in. I mean, we're on episode 20 right now. And so that's a beautiful thing to me, because I can see it coming through, all the better things, and getting more engagement and views and all that. Like I said, it'll come when it comes, but that's what I'm getting at, is that's the whole point of it, is that, with you and all of, your struggles that you had went through, it's not the fact that you're using as a flex or as a empathetic feeling to make people want to have to support you. It's the fact that you're raising awareness for people that create excuses for no reason, or people that make excuses for no reason, because they can take exactly what you're saying and flip it. And they could say, oh, like, people are going to say this, they're going to say this, or they're going to do this. I can't see this, I can't do that. They can make all theirs. And there's people that do. And there's people that are wanting to have somebody like Cinema to set that tone straight and say, hey, like, me and you are the same. Like, I get it. Like, you've had struggles, so have I. But the difference between me and you is that I am an aspiring creator with a passion doing what I do. And you sitting there behind the screen saying that you don't know why your stream starting screen stays gray and why you post no content at all. Like, that's the difference, because if you don't want it, there's no reason to, preach about it. And so that's kind of, I think that's the bigger picture. Is I just don't want you to ever seem like your issues with your eye, that you're using it in a sense of like being empathetic. I think that you're using it because if you want to get to know Cinema as a sniper, you need to understand him as a creator. And I think that's how they should understand you, because that is you and you're proud of it.
Exactly. And kind of adding to, like, if you put your mind to it, you can do it. I fully back everything up. Like, everything that has to do with just setting your mind to do something and pursuing that. You have no idea, like, how many people struggle with that. Like, you can say you want to do something, but it's the work that gets you there. You know what I'm saying? Like, streaming on console, like, I hated it, but I wanted to make content, so I spent those extra hours at night recording off my phone, doing those extra steps just so that I can put content out, not for people, but for myself, because that's what I wanted to do. I don't care about the views, anything like that. I just wanted to make content. That's who I wanted to be. That's what I wanted to do. So I made that extra step to go and do that, alongside with, working those extra hours to get a PC, to upgrade that so that I can do even more. And at first, when I got this PC, I was just streaming. Content wasn't really a thing that I wanted to do quite yet. I wanted to get the streaming part
Yeah.
down. But once I had that, I've been posting, I think, for a whole month and a half straight. Every Saturday I post, and it's been consistent. I've not missed a single day. Along with streaming, I've missed one for a family emergency. But other than that, like, I put my mind to it, and I'm putting in the work, and, like, nothing's stopping me, because this is what I want to do, and I'm going to put everything I have into it.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I mean, you can clearly see that. And, even like I said, I mean, me and you are decent friends. I've definitely tapped into your stuff. You've seen some of my stuff. I mean, you've even said that you've watched some of my podcasts. Obviously, I appreciate it. Anybody that's here watching, I appreciate you. But I think that's just kind of the cool thing about it, is that, when you can tell the difference behind the way that somebody is saying something. And a lot of people, it's pretty easy to read whether they're just kind of saying it just to say it, or they're not. And you're saying it, with your chest, like, you're up and out there, like, this is me, this is who I am, like, I love content, this is what I love making, and I just hope and pray that people will support me along the way so I can continue to reach out to more creators. So I think that's definitely the cool thing about it. So I do want to kind of talk about the two smaller subjects that we've been talking about streaming a lot, but I don't think we specifically got into actually what got you into streaming. Was there somebody that helped you along the way? Did you just wake up and find Twitch one day, or how did that happen?
Well, so growing up, playing MW2 and all that, obviously FaZe was a giant part of, I think, every sniping person's childhood, right? So back then I don't think streaming sniping wise was as big, but YouTube was. So I was constantly watching those YouTube videos and things like that, and then I got introduced to FaZe Scope. And Scope was the main person who I found out streamed, and I was like, "Oh my god, I get to watch this live! Like, are you kidding me? I get to talk to him in the chat." I was like, "What the hell?" So I got into his chat and I was like, "Hey Scope, how are you doing?" And he responded to me, and I was like, "Oh my god, like he noticed me! Oh my god!" And it just was like watching that stream. I loved it, and I was like, "I want to be able to talk to people like this." Like I loved every second of it. So I was always watching him, and obviously Fortnite, a lot of streamers started doing that. So, I watched people like Ninja and
Right.
other big time Fortnite streamers, and that's where like streaming really got hooked for me. I first streamed Fortnite. I think I think that was my first stream ever was Fortnite. And it was like so weird because I had no idea how it worked. I didn't have my chat pulled up. I just clicked stream and that was it. I didn't have another monitor or nothing. I didn't know what to do. I just clicked the button and I was live. And I was pretending that people were in my chat and it was super fun. And I continued to just like stream whenever I felt like it in Fortnite. But then going back to watching Scope and Depy and going back into like the Cold War days, that's when I wanted to like really, really just pick it up. Like that's
Mhm.
what mainly got me like hooked completely into being a streamer or being like wanting to be a streamer. Because before I just liked watching it, but now I wanted to be like that streamer that people watch.
Yeah.
So Cold War is where I definitely picked things up and I made sure that like I wouldn't say I had a set schedule, but I definitely had days where I was like, I'm gonna stream today. I'm gonna stream this day. I got more interactive. I made my own Discord server so that people who do, join my streams can chat with me otherwise, like off stream, things like that. And when I made my Cold War sniping team, that's when I think the streaming really took off because
Mhm.
I was under that team's name.
Right.
So I was Love. That was the team. It
Right.
was Love Cinema, and people were starting to realize like, oh, that's Love Cinema. Like, that's the streamer, and a lot of people started realizing that I was on console. And like I said, I used my phone, so I'd have my phone next to my TV. And I would just use that to watch what people were saying, and I'd communicate. But like the bit rate was like terrible. It was awful. But like as long as I was streaming and as long as people were there, like I loved every second of it. I didn't matter how many views, like literally nothing mattered. As long as people were like watching and I was interacting with people, that's all that mattered to me. I love just talking to people,
Yeah.
especially like when a new chatter comes in, they're like, "Hey, like, I'm scrolling through Twitch, I'm scrolling through Kick, and I notice you're here. Like, what's up?" It's like it's a new person that you got to talk to. Like, you don't know who they are, they don't know who you are. You just got to have a conversation with someone, and sometimes, if anything, most of the time, it's a genuine conversation with, if they love games, you get to talk about games. Any other thing, I know a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, a few people like have realized I have skateboards as shelves,
Mhm.
and people come in my chat, they're like, "Oh, do you skate?" So I got to talk about that, right? So it's just like those interactions is what make me want to stream even more. So mainly phase scope, depth fee, and I guess I could say currently too, because I still get motivation from close friends, things like that. So Demo, who's like one of my best friends, he helps me with some of my stream stuff, but along with like I watch his streams every day. I'm always in there, and like he just motivates me because seeing him succeed makes me want to succeed,
Yeah.
and it just like I said, it just motivates me more and more every day. And seeing just the homies like Envy, who was on the podcast,
Yeah.
he's a good friend. He got his face cam
Yep.
recently, and just like, seeing him do that, seeing him want to keep going, makes me so happy. It makes me glad that like I am where I am, and I'm glad that I picked up streaming because I get to meet other streamers and talk about streaming and do things like this.
Yeah, no, definitely, and on the specific topic of Envy, the kind of the funny thing about it, Envy does have his own podcast that he kind of does here and there. He's just had some issues and stuff go on, and I think that he's trying to pick it back up now that he's got Facecam back. But I was talking to him, and I was like, man, I was like, that's the only requirement of my podcast that I have is Facecam. And I was like, never in my years of doing these podcasts, in the future, would I ever would have thought that one of your first ever face reveals would be like on my podcast. Like
Right.
that's really sick. And we had really got into which, I mean, you probably watched it, but we had really got into the impact that you make as a creator. Other people out there, thousands of people that don't want to show their face because they're afraid of this, afraid of that. And it was such an awesome conversation to have because you could see the excitement behind him and his little, like, even the fucking little thumbnail of him like doing all this shit. Like
He's
it,
so
it's
funny.
it's so funny because it's not the fact that he's a funny character, it's the fact that he just now got out of his comfort zone and he's
Right.
automatically a clown, and it's awesome. It's
It's
cool
just
to
who
see.
he
And
is. He gets
yeah,
to
and
be himself.
that really sets the tone for a lot of creators, and that's something I'm definitely proud of him specifically. I just wanted to say that because you brought him up.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, it's definitely important. I think that's awesome that you're able to do more for your community, be able to get out there and stuff, get into streaming. Shout out Demo. I mean, I know Demo a little bit. Kind of same thing with him. Me and him aren't really good friends, but I do know him. He's an amazing sniper. And what friends can do for you. I mean, this space is so incredible. I mean, just like I was telling you about a little bit about my buddy Leafy Slimmons. I mean, that is online wise, that is probably one of my closest buddies, I would say, online. And I wouldn't trade that friendship for the world. Like, I mean, we've not even really met each other yet. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I don't care. I mean, he's somebody that has helped me through so much. I've helped him, like I told you about his mother passing away and stuff. And it's amazing what other people can do when you care about each other. And like I said, I wish things like that were normalized nowadays, and they're not. The last thing I did kind of want to talk about before I do, you keep bringing up, skating and something about being your hobby and something that you're passionate about. Do you ever post any type of skating content? Have you ever had any ideas of doing some vlogs or something of you skating, or just putting your camera down and just having a good time?
Yeah, so I actually did a little bit of skating and scootering.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Skating was definitely my first option. Scootering kind of seemed really lame, but my friend got me into it, and I actually went professional in scootering.
Nice,
I was in a lot of competitions and things like that. I had two sponsors, and so I definitely took that on another level.
nice.
And growing up with having that, I thought that that would be my career. I thought that I would go full time. I guess you could say full
Right.
time as that, scooter rider because like I was getting flown out to compete in these tournaments and things like that. And so I would be making Instagram edits. Every time I go to a skate park, I'd have one friend, one or two friends with me who would just film me, for hours and hours and hours, just spending that time getting that perfect clip. And I have here, I don't know if you could fully see it, but like just loads
Oh,
and
yeah,
loads of
that's
videos
sick.
going all the way back to like, let's see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll definitely have to check it out and tap into it. This is obviously, like I said, we don't know each other that well, so I didn't know how devoted you were into that. So it's sick. I'm glad that you have something like that. That means a lot to you.
Yeah, but my first like ever edit that I posted on my page was back in 2019,
Hmm.
and like at first like I was just doing it for fun, posting my little clips and things like that, and I progressively just got better and better. And same thing with like the sniping community, those bigger names you always just look at for
Hmm.
inspiration. And I
Hundred
definitely had
percent.
a lot of people in my hometown area that were those people. So
Cool.
I don't know if anyone knows any of these people, but people like Tanner Fox and
Hmm.
things like that, like I grew up near, not with, but a few towns away. And so like I was
Yeah.
able to meet them and just talk about things like that. And it was just a great like the scootering community is just a great community. I'd say way better than the COD community.
Yeah,
They're
definitely.
they're they're definitely
That's
way
for
more
sure.
welcoming. No one's really like, no one has an ego. Like we're just such a big family, and so
Yeah.
getting, I guess you could say, popular in that community was not that hard at all. Especially, people found out that I had the one eye, and so that was a little more crazy because it was
Yeah.
a more physical thing.
Right.
Um, but I pursued that for so long. Like I said, I had those sponsors. I thought that would be my career, but it just got boring. I feel like I got to a skill gap to
Mm-hmm.
where I just wasn't progressing. So I turned into filming because I love scootering so much and I still wanted to keep doing it. So I was like, why don't I just film that? So I started filming my friends. I started doing there's these things called video parts where it's kind of like a montage, but
Mm-hmm.
of scooter skateboard clips,
Yeah.
where it's your biggest tricks, your like gnarliest
Gotcha.
tricks, and it's called just in a big video. So I started filming those, and every year we have a thing called a street jam where literally people from around the world come down to a city and we just ride around the streets. You know, if there's a big stair set down at this plaza, you go and everyone circles around it and people do tricks down it. And it's just like, that's a huge thing that the community has every year. So I would go and I would film those. And that's what got me into like editing and filming into the first place. Like that just sparked my passion. And I still do that here and there. I still film my friends every now and then. The weather here in Chicago is not the best, so I haven't been doing it too much recently. But that's really it with like scootering. That's kind of where I ended off is just filming and doing things like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I mean that's sick. Like I said, I'm really glad that you have that hobby, and I think that's really it's really cool to not only be passionate about something, but to have such a welcoming community. Because I mean, the world that we would live in if the COD community was welcoming, oh my goodness, like it would be insane. But
Man,
it won't happen. But that is really cool, and that does apply to a lot of games. There's a lot of games out there. I think Valorant is a pretty decent game. I don't think Valorant is that toxic. I just think it has a lot of bad eggs in there. But Valorant is definitely a more welcoming community for sure that I could probably speak on from personal experience. But yeah, so the last question I wanted to talk about before we end off on here, we're almost about 50 minutes in being able to talk about everything. I do want to leave off with people kind of getting to know that final nail in the coffin about cinema, and that's where did cinema come from? How did you get your name?
so cinema, uh, it's such a crazy story. So going back to like filming and editing like scootering videos, I was just still hooked on watching phase and all that, and watching all the phase montages. I was absolutely mind blown seeing your person, or the character that got either shot, or the
Right.
character holding the sniper. You could see that from a third person perspective. I
Yeah.
like the theater mode aspect of montages just blew my mind away, and I was like, how the fuck do you do that? Like, that is amazing. And I just loved, like, like I said, it just blew my mind. And those turned out to be named Cinematics, and I was like, "Oh my god, I want to change my name to that," because I love cinematics. Like,
Yeah.
it's such a big part of montages nowadays, and I was just like, I love it." So I wanted to change my name to it, but it was too long, so I just shortened it to Cinema. And a lot of people joke about it being like a movie theater and things like that, but it's actually a completely different story.
Yeah, no, I mean that's sick. I think cinema is definitely a really specific and unique name, because I mean even like somebody like Feeds, like I would definitely say that my name is pretty decently unique. I think the only big person I know is a guy named Chain Feeds who got really famous off COD and stuff. But there's not a whole lot of feeds out there. But like for specifically for cinema, like you're the only cinema I've ever heard of,
I've
So.
never seen a cinema
I think that
ever.
that's sick, and I think and I say this every single time on the podcast. The only time I wouldn't say it is if somebody doesn't have a background of their name, because then I would feel bad because I feel like I'm bashing them.
Right.
But it's important to have a background of your name because, and I brought the same thing up. I can't remember who I was talking about. I think maybe it was Monster when he was on the podcast. I can't remember. But Bams, where he had hit 1 million subscribers, had his amazing accomplishment and stuff. That's what I was telling him. Is like, man, I was like, I'm proud and excited for him and everything that he's done, but like people like that and other creators that are nothing, they work their way to get to where they be, and then they finally hit their main goal and then keep going forward. Like that's the things that I like more is how they got their name. I love
Yeah.
seeing that, that kind of makes me love the story more than just seeing that you were a crazy sniper and people, just really tapped into you and started to understand you as a person and stuff like
Mhm.
that kind of stuff is cool. But I was always fascinated about the names and where it came from and how that lies in with your passion. So that to me is a big part, and that is definitely why I ask everybody where they got their names from, because I like to be kind of educated, on you and how you got that from, and obviously anybody watching your community and stuff.
Mm.
So yeah, I definitely think that's important. So that I wanted to get those normal questions out of the way before we kind of get to current day. We are kind of a little bit long here, which again doesn't matter at all. But I do have one question that I do always bring up before we end everything off here, and that is about mental health and having taking breaks and stuff. I want to normalize it for creators. I definitely do want to hear your perspective as well, because you kind of have a unique twist on
Mhm.
taking a break and taking a step back and stuff, because there's a lot of creators, regardless of what excuses you have or what difficulties you run with, a lot of people have issues stepping away, a lot of people have issues coming back. So from your perspective, somebody that comes in that's even watching this right now, that's struggling, they're burned out, they don't know what game to play, they don't have friends, they have trouble sending a message to collab or just for advice. I mean, what would Cinema's advice be to creators to help get them out of the zone that they're in?
I always say, and I live by this. You come first. It does not matter what anyone's gonna think of you. If you take a step back for a week and you don't say anything, people are gonna question where you are. People are gonna question how you're doing, what happened. But it's like, as long as you're focusing on yourself and you're making sure you're okay, like, it doesn't matter what they think. You'll get back to them later. You'll answer those questions later. It's you come first. You are going to be the only person that can help you through these times. Yes, people can, you know, give you advice and help you along the way, but really it's up to you to make those like final decisions in your head. Um and I guess I can say, going back to one of the breaks that I had taken, right? So after like ending the team, I was unmotivated and just didn't want to do anything. And I think I just I just like wanted to take a step back from everything. Like, I'm not kidding. I took a entire I think month of just not gaming, not scootering, just focusing on myself, making sure that I was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because like I said, that's the most important thing. Like, you come first before anyone. So, like, no matter what you're going through, I think it's important to just take that time. Like, it's okay to take a break. To whether it's a day, a month, a year, like, your mental health is the most important thing. And like, yeah, some of your viewers will be upset, things like that, but like, it's like mental health is a part of life. Like, you have to deal with it. um so taking a step back, taking a break, like, do it, please. Even if you don't think you need it, take a day or two and just breathe. Like, go outside, take a trip. Like, I've been away from my family for about 2 years. There's a falling out that had happened, and I still kind of deal with it to this day. And I recently took a second, and it was like, I need to see them. I think it's time that I make that effort and I go back and I visit them. And now I'm going back for Thanksgiving finally. But it's like, I had to make a decision whether to go back and visit my family and kind of regain that relationship, or make content and stream the new game because it's going to be around that same time. And I was like, I think people are going to understand that family comes first, alongside with, how I feel about the situation. So, like I said, take that break, please. It's so important. No matter the situation, if it's a relationship that ended or a family member that had passed, like, those can affect people in so many different ways. And you know don't be scared to take a step back. It's okay. You can, like, streaming and content creation, like, it'll always be here. But like, I don't even know how to like describe what I'm trying to say. Like,
I got you.
you are the only person in charge. You can only, like, you're the only person to make that effort for yourself. No one can do it for you. Your viewers, like like I said, they can give you advice, they can give you tips, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to help yourself. And so taking that break gives you a chance to kind of regain, think about everything, and just take a moment with yourself.
Yeah,
So,
no, 100%. I fully agree, and I think that it's really important because I feel like a lot of people that struggle with mental health or taking breaks or even with family issues. I ain't trying to bring stuff up, but just even on that topic of having that, you have to realize what is more important. Like what do you value in life? What are you looking forward to? And even on that topic, I mean, I have which I wouldn't get into it either because I mean it is personal, but I did have a fallout with my brother. I had it for about 2 or 3 years. He just ended things off and said lies about my mom and dad and didn't talk to him. And then he just came back into our lives a couple months ago. There's a lot of trust issues that I have with him. But at the end of the day, I would much rather have a small relationship with them, even though I don't fully agree with it, than no relationship at all. And I think that's important for a lot of people because a lot of people struggle with that. And you get in that mindset of they're not worth it or they're not worth my time or I'm not dealing with them. They don't understand it. But at the end of the day, when you finally get to where you want to be, when you have some exciting news you want to share, when you get in a hardship that you find a way out of, at the end of the day, it's who is there for you. And again, you are accountable for your own actions. So that applies to family issues, that applies to content creation, that applies with streaming or just work. I mean, even just work in general. I mean, if you decide that you're not feeling it for the day, you can make your job 10 times harder depending on your occupation that you do. I mean, it depends on how much people rely on you. And that acknowledgement and that action can mean a lot more than what what your brain takes because your brain don't want to think about the cons of it. Your brain doesn't want to think about what if I go and do see my family, what if I do just say I'm not feeling bad and I just stream anyways even though I know that I'm not feeling right. What if my brain is telling me I don't need a break, I don't need to do these things and stuff. Your brain tells you things because it's things that you don't want to hear. And
right.
that's the biggest part of mental health and breaking through that is that you have to understand that you cannot be a yes man in your head with the people around you. If you are reaching out to people for help and all they're doing is sympathizing with you and stuff, I'm not saying cut them out of your life, but they're not the friends that you need. You need friends that give you those reality checks, the ones that, yeah, they can hype you up and help you through your situation. But if you're asking for advice for somebody and you reach out to somebody and all they're doing is just saying, hey, I don't really know, but I hope you get through whatever you get through, I would much rather somebody just be straight up, Doug. Listen, man, like I feel for you, but you're making excuses right now because this and my, to me personally, I don't see why there's a reason. Like even like my situation, somebody could be like, hey, like listen, I get it, Feeds, but with you and your brother, I understand that you're upset, but that's not a reason to just not never connect with them again. Like it can apply to anything.
Exactly.
So I think that it is very important for everybody to kind of check themselves and understand the environment around them, understand the decisions that they're making, and get an idea of what they want to prioritize. And yeah, like definitely just like you said, you have to put you first, but what does that mean? I think that's kind of I feel like that's something that a lot of people are missing is everybody usually does live by I always put myself first, but do you actually know what that means? Have you tapped in and took a break and understanding what doing you actually means to you? Because a lot of people say it, but they don't really have an idea behind it. They're just like, well, obviously I'm a priority. It's like, yeah, but like, what does that mean to you? If you're a priority yourself, how does that help you? And I do want to give you the chance to kind of speak off of that because I'm sure that you want to say something to that before we end off on here.
Well, I think just like you can say yes, I put myself first, but there's times where it's like you don't realize that you're not doing that, right? Like
Excuse me.
for example, I had that mindset of I'm going to stream every day. I'm not going to miss a day, right? But that one day where I had a family emergency, I was like I need to take this back. Like this is my issue and I have to deal with it. So I'm going to take this step back and I'm going to deal with it. That's kind of putting me first. I'm making sure that like yeah, it's going to suck that I miss a day. It's all right. It's one day out of the 100 days, continuing. Like that one day isn't going to affect anything else. And if it does, oh well. At least I made amends with the situation. At least
Yeah.
that situation is dealt with. Therefore, the stress and anything else that comes along with it is done. Right? Like
Yeah.
I made sure that situation can be can be resolved before moving forward so that I don't feel guilty.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, I think that's the biggest thing about it is that you don't have to, no matter how bad whatever situation through anybody is going through, it's not the fact of how bad it is, it's the fact of you have to understand what does that mean to you. I mean, if that situation is so bad in your head, is it right for you to just be done with that situation for the rest of your life? Or is it worth it enough to you to always just hold on to a little piece of it just so it's there, just in case a situation changes? Maybe you grow up, maybe you realize that you were in the wrong, maybe you realize you need to be the bigger person, or maybe you realize you gain an ego and you're like, hey, like, I'm not in the wrong and this person needs to know it and they're going to have to hear it, because in order for you to gain my trust and to let you back in my life, I'm going to tell you how I feel. And a lot of people have that kind of struggle too. So that's what I mean by finding out who you are. And it's your response. What kind of response are you? If you're struggling with something, is your struggle either hopefully it gets figured out, what did I do wrong, or it's their fault, I did nothing wrong? And depending on your response needs to depend on your reply to your own response. If you say, just like I said, if you say it's not my fault, then if you strongly and firmly believe it's not your fault and you're passionate about whatever it is in your life that's going on that you know is not your fault, then you need to act upon it. Be like, hey, like, I'm not the problem, you are. And the only way to go up from here is for us to have this conversation and understand so we can move forward with our life. Because at the end of the day, just like I said, just like with this podcast and stuff, it's I want positivity. I want people to be happy, and you have to make struggling and tough decisions like that in your life to be able to actually be happy. Because there's a lot of people out there that are morally happy, but there's many things in life that they could do if it was just a simple phone call, a simple conversation or something that could ultimately change their whole day to day. And it's just that one lingering thought process every day that just holds you back a little bit more from being a little bit happier that day. I mean, do you kind of feel the same way?
Yeah, I agree. Like, with that little bit of, thought behind in the back of your head every day, it's like same thing with my family, right? Like, not seeing them for so long has definitely like affected me. But, I went on my day to day, not thinking too harshly about it, but, it still just lingered in the back of my head. And, eventually it kind of took a toll and made me realize like I am still thinking about it. It's still affecting me. And I think it's time to kind of make amends with that. Like, seeing my sister's posts on social media and, all the big family events that I'm missing out. It's like, it's taking a toll on me. And I think I've finally come to realize like that it's still there and it's still affecting me. And going back to see them, I definitely think is going to change the way that I go on with my life. Because,
Yeah.
This small decision going back to see them is going to make amends moving forward. You're right. Like, it's going to make my parents happy. It's going to make me happy. Everyone else who I get to see, my friends, it's going to make everyone happy. So not only am I doing it to get rid of it, like get rid of the idea, I'm doing it more so that I don't have to worry about this connection and worry about the family issues long term. Like, I think like it's long overdue that I go and see them.
Yeah, most definitely. And I fully understand, and I think that's kind of the bigger picture to it is, what does making amends, mean to you? And it all just depends on how you reply. I wasn't trying to turn this into nothing to like give you advice or enlighten it. I just
No,
thought
you're
that
good.
it was a good story, and it's good for people to hear. I gave you a tiny bit of insight about my struggles that I just dealt with my brother. You told me a little bit about your family, and it's not the fact that I'm trying to be dramatic and get more tea of what's going on. It's the fact of raising awareness, because people struggle with so many different things like that and they don't talk about it at all. So if two random people can talk a little bit about their situation and be sympathized and spit back and forth, why can't they be like, you know what? When I wake up tomorrow, I'm going to do something. And I think that's really all I'm looking for, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be happy enough until you are somewhat satisfied in your head that you did whatever you could with the situation. Um, so I think it's been a great conversation. I mean, we've been over an hour. I think this is technically the longest podcast I've had so far, which again doesn't bother me at all. I don't really care about the time. I'm it's been back and forth throughout this whole way. We've had no breaks, no cuts. It's been a raw and uncut podcast. Really appreciate your time. You've been awesome being able to hear about you and your life story. And before we say a few things and end off here, is there anything you'd like to share with your community? Anything that's coming up that you're excited about or anything?
Moving forward, I actually recently joined One Shot Sniping, which I'm super excited. So, if you guys don't know who they are, definitely check them out. Alongside with that, we are going to be hosting a Goodbye Modern Warfare 2 tournament. It is not fully announced, but we're trying to get it out there because I know a lot of people have missed that tournament style, and we want to do it one last goodbye before we never touch that game again.
Yeah.
Alongside, I am doing a 24-hour stream soon.
Nice.
But that's pretty much it with me.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see it. You can check him out below. Face cam. Stop being blurry. You can check him out below the face cam. In the description is his links. Go check him out. Show him some love. Cinema, is there anything you'd like to say before we end off on here for everybody listening?
If you guys are watching this, shout out to Feeds, man. I think this podcast can definitely do the most. That it can do what people. Wait, what?
You got it. I believe you. I believe you. Come on, you got this.
If you guys are watching this, shout out to Feeds. This podcast is amazing, and I love what he's doing with it. I love the message that he's sending out with everyone, and it gives a creator or a streamer a chance to just sit down and talk. We don't ever have the time to do that with anyone, so it's definitely a refresher. It feels genuinely like someone cares about our backstory and how we feel, especially about the whole mental health. No one cares. I feel like really no one cares, and no one makes the effort to do that. And so you making that effort to take a moment out of your podcast to go out and reach out, it's huge, especially for someone who's struggled with depression and things like that. It means the world. So if you guys ever do need help, please reach out to me, reach out to Feeds, reach out to a good friend of yours, please. It is worth it. And once again, shout out Feeds.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for all the kind words. And I could say the exact same thing about you because, I mean, a lot of people have told me that, and it's hard because, I'm the host, so I have to maintain my composure. I can't get upset seeing that it works out and stuff, but it does mean a lot. But it means a lot more to me that creators like yourself that, clearly have had struggles go on and share your story so comfortably. And that's just kind of my main goal of this podcast is just creating a safe space where people feel like they can talk about it. Because at the end of the day, I can't provide a lot, but not only just the fact of being able to share your story with somebody, but also being able to share that with your community and to get them to kind of know more about you. I feel like you're just kind of, you're doing good for yourself. Regardless of me and my self gains and how well the podcast does, like I said, that'll come when it comes. It happens, it's me. It's who I am in a podcast. But that's the things that make me happy because, like I said, I get the unique way to be able to build with cinema and to be able to understand you more. Now, the next time that we talk to each other, it obviously has a lot more meaning behind it. But at the same time, just like I was telling you before this podcast, I am more excited being able to watch your communities, be able to watch this and see their responses to say, oh, I didn't know that about you, or oh, I didn't even know that you was into scootering like that. Oh, I was with Tanner. Me and him are really good friends. It's crazy that you live in the same hometown. Anything. So I really do genuinely appreciate your time. Guys, again, check him out below in the description. Appreciate you guys so much for being able to watch here today. It's been a great and exciting conversation with cinema, and something that I do want to bring out. I'll probably make a little separate video about this. I was telling him a little about this before, but I'm kind of revamping my whole streaming, figuring out what I'm doing with my career and my time. I do want to get into casting with the new COD. I do want to start doing that. Host tournaments, how they should be fucking hosted, not leaking shit like other people. I want to host them correctly, and I want to do as much good for this community as I can because nobody does. So I feel like somebody has to. And so I do want to kind of start having open podcasts on my stream. So not specifically how is going on in this video, but just kind of like a normal podcast where we're actually talking about trending topics and stuff. But I feel like at least for right now for this podcast, I do want to just keep it that way, at least for right now. Like I don't really care about the hot topics and trending and cutting it into TikTok clips and having a viral moment like that. I would it makes me more happier being able to just connect and getting to know people better. Whatever happens with the podcast in the future, it's trial and error. But just anybody watching, that's a little bit of news I can share of my intentions going forward. But I do appreciate everybody watching. Cinema, I appreciate your time being able to be here today. Thank you so much. It definitely means a lot. But yeah, guys, that has been episode number 20. Check him out below again. Thank you guys so much for staying tuned. Stay tuned for more podcasts to come. This is Feeds Mindset, episode number 20. My name is Feeds, and I'm out, guys.